I managed to get away last week with backing absolutely nothing, but this week I've already backed two, I'm considering two, and that's with me executing Shelf Control. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is To Back or Not to Back, where we go over all the Kickstarters, or most of the Kickstarters, the crowdfunding, the Game Found. There's like 5 Game Found campaigns we're talking about this week, although granted some of them are just upcoming campaigns, but there's a whole lot of Game Found stuff happening. We'll be going into all of those as usual: updates, cancellations, refunds, all those different things. I don't know why I said refunds, that has nothing to do with anything I'm saying here, but we go into all of those. But starting off the bat with Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a new segment we do, or new-ish, it's been like a month and a half by now. Cult of the Now is where we take a look at an available game that you can go ahead and get your hands on, well, now. You don't have to pay Kickstarter prices, you don't have to wait for the year and a half from now where you'll get it, you don't have to sit there and type angry comments on a Kickstarter page because it's 2 months past the delivery date, they've only just started sending out updates, and you are frustrated. There are great games available now for a great price, and this week we're featuring a Canadian game store, 401 Games in Canada and Toronto. This is going to be $59.95 in Canadian dollars, not in US dollars, so wherever you are, whatever currency you want to convert it to. But Anno 1800 is a fantastic game by Stefan Feld. Based on the game from the PC game from Ubisoft, Anno 1800 is an amazing... Did I say Stefan Feld? Wow. Martin Wallace. Designed by Martin Wallace. This is a Euro game that focus heavily on the production chains that you have. I have a review over on my channel, you can check that out. It's an amazing game. I love this. It feels like Brass Light. It's not light, but it feels like Brass Light in a higher level overview of what it's doing, but it plays in a shorter time frame, and I think I prefer Brass, but I think I'll be playing Anno 1800 more. Fantastic game, fantastic experience, available at local game stores near you. Now, before we go ahead and dive into the rest of the stuff, because there's a whole bunch of games to jump into, understand that this weekend is Passover, which means that I'm filming this earlier than usual because from your timeline that you're currently in, I've been offline the past 2 days, which means I can't film this when I usually do, so the information I have across the various Kickstarters and Game Founds we cover, it's going to be a few days behind compared to normal. It's going to be, missing a few updates, have funding dollars a little below, may have a cancellation or two, who really knows? I don't think we'll have new cancellations, but we might. We'll find out as we go through it. But basically, in case anything seems off, it's because I'm filming this a day or two earlier than I normally do. And with that, let's go ahead and start off, speaking of cancellations, with Far Cry Beyond. Far Cry Beyond from Ubisoft, by the way, which is I've seen Ubisoft get a lot of hate in this thing. I've seen a lot of hate going around in terms of Far Cry, from Funforge to Ubisoft to Far Cry in general, any number of different things. In terms of Ubisoft, they have multiple amazing games based on their video games. They have Assassin's Creed, which is fantastic. They have Anno 1800, which is fantastic. Both based on Ubisoft games, both absolutely amazing, because I've seen a lot of comments over on Far Cry about how video games don't convert well to board games. They've done it. They've done it successfully. There's a lot of well-rated games. There's more well-rated games coming, games that I've had a chance of playing, Kickstarters, The Witcher, or Six Siege, any number of different games out there. PC games, more and more, video games, are more and more are converting just fine into board games and doing so well. Far Cry is just a case where it doesn't look like a Far Cry game. Did not hit their target audience. This launched and canceled within 24 hours, unfortunately. I'm very sad for Funforge. I mean, having a Far Cry game not hitting any reasonable numbers, 234 backers in 24 hours is not a good look at all. I hope they come back with something else. I don't know what that thing is, but Far Cry Beyond, it launched and canceled fairly quickly. They're connecting. There's a comment over in the comment section. You can check this out, where they talk about somebody saying, "Hey, I hope you come back with something," and they're saying, "We're interested. We're very disappointed. The feedback career. What did they say? We said something. I don't know where it was. There was a comment somewhere about how they're going to be looking into their options or something about what they can do with the IP." Talking to Ubisoft, I think there's two different games here. I think there's a dungeon crawling game that they have over here that they slapped a Far Cry IP on top of, and then I think there's the Far Cry IP, which they need to completely reevaluate how they want to handle that, because this is not a Far Cry game. And so this is, unfortunately, this canceled. I did a full video on this. You can check it out more if you want to see more information over there. But that's Far Cry Beyond, which canceled already. Next up, we have Stellar Expedition, a space exploration game. This is currently not funding based on where it's at. And I imagine when you're watching this, it probably still hasn't funded, just based on the nature of Kickstarter trajectories. 131 backers, $6,500 raised out of a $20,000 goal, 27 days to go. It might cross the finish line, to be clear. Just I don't think it'll be funded by the time you see this, so we'll see what happens there. I don't know if they're going to try to slowly trudge across the finish line, or alternatively look at a cancellation and relaunch. Stellar Expedition is leaning heavily into a Star Trek vibe of space exploration. Not space combat, space exploration. You're going to be assembling your crew, going on different journeys across, I believe, 8 rounds of play, as you try to figure out how to optimize your score and go through the exploration and iteration iterative process of, well, gaining points and all that. I don't know that much about the game. I know the high-level cliff notes of what's going on the page. But that's basically Stellar Expedition. We'll see what's happening with this one. We'll see where this one ultimately goes. There's a bunch of preview content out there from Rondo to Meeple University. A bunch of people you can watch if you want to get more of a feel for what this game is selling. Past that, moving on to the games that are currently the new campaigns, basically. We don't have any real updates. I usually do updates if there's relevant updated information on specific campaigns, or if they're just like, hey, it's the last few days and they're the last time to talk about it. And we don't really have a lot of that this week. So, starting off with Blade Rondo, the first of, 10 campaigns or so we'll be going over today. Links and timestamps, all that down below. But Blade Rondo from Japanime Games is a two-player and a 1 to 2 player game. So 1 to 2 player game of trying to assemble your deck of cards. You're going to get 15 cards. You're going to be picking 7. You're building your engine. You're building the cards you're going to be using against your opponent, whether the AI or the other player. And then it's about reducing your opponent's life total down to 0 first using the combination of your cards. It's all about building a sequence of combos from this set of cards. From what I've seen about it, and I highly recommend checking out One Stop Co-op Shop. Mike did a full playthrough of it as well as his opinion. I went from being completely uninterested in this game. Anime in general is just not my thing, and this style of game, I mean, speaking frankly, let's be completely direct, this looks like hot garbage. I'm going to be not so nice. This over here, I don't know if it's the final game or not, but the art on the cards, fine. That's an anime thing. It's not to my taste personally, but whatever. It's a style. The boards they have over here look like hot garbage. I don't know what the final game looks like. This does not. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. I'm being aggressively mean. I apologize, but this is a game that would have been completely not on my radar until I watched, Mike covering the game and talking about how he's interested in the game because he really enjoyed the puzzle nature of trying to assemble that combo in your hand and then going through the game, either 2-player or solo. And going through it solo, you're going through a bit of a iterating challenge. So your combo's going to get a little stale as you keep going through it, but you're watching it execute against higher and higher challenges as you go through it. Looks like a very intriguing game. The idea of building out a short, small, very confined combo, that appeals to me strongly, and so I'm very interested in this game just based off of, well, the gameplay as well as Mike. Not interested in it based on the theme or the presentation or the cost or any other factors other than the gameplay, mechanics, and One Stop Co-op Shop talking about the game. So that's Blade Rondo. And this, by the way, is not a new game. You can check it out over on Board Game Geek. It already existed. They're just prepackaging it all together with 5 different expansions or options or a legendary box as far as if you want to get your hands in it, which now is a good time to talk about the price point of the game and whether you should or shouldn't get the game. So, short version is coming from Japanime Games. Their games in general don't do the best job holding their value. Usually, more often than not, this is a game that if it's not for you, you're going to find that it will not sell for its full price in the secondhand market. You will likely end up losing something on this. But if you're interested in the game, then your options are secondhand market or getting it at retail, and the retail availability isn't always as high as I would like, so it kind of falls into that little spot which is always present but ever annoying of, feel free to back it if you want it, and it might be the best opportunity for you, but it likely will not hold its value in the secondhand market. As far as the pledge levels of here, we have $20 for the base pledge for just a core game over here, $40 for the combo, which is 2 core games, and then $125 for the full all-in with playmats, with all 5 games, with all that stuff, and there's a whole bunch of add-ons you can get as well for the game. So a bunch of options. I would say the one that's most likely to hold its value, likely will not hold its value, but at least it's exclusive in some sense, is the Legendary Garden here, which can be a 2,000 copy limited print run. Limited is not exclusive, not a guarantee, but it's limited, I guess. It's not a guarantee. But that's basically what we have over here for Blade Rondo. Moving on to Paradox Initiative. Paradox Initiative, $35,000 raised out of a $35,000 raised out of a $30,000 stretch goal, 660 backers. This is coming to you from Elf Creek Games, and this one, I mean, it's not hitting that day one buzz that an Elf Creek game typically has. I don't know why offhand. I have some theories, but we'll get into those. But Paradox Initiative is a reprint of Paradox. It's a reprint similar to the way they took Atlantis Rising, made it all pretty and deluxified, and it's now a heavily sought after experience. They took Paradox, a decently but not amazingly well rated game, and they made it Paradox Initiative, and now they're launching it over here on Kickstarter. This is going to be giving you a Bejeweled style gameplay as you get these goals you're going for, as you have to hit certain criteria, but you're trying to execute these combos on your little Bejeweled grid going on over here. It features a multiverse, which means they're bringing in a whole bunch of artists to represent the different worlds in the game. And that art is being slowly revealed through the updates, which I think is a bit of a misstep, because rather than plastering the page day one with tons of spread of cards from a variety of artists, just showing you spread after spread, expanding the presentation of what you're getting, as well as showing you a visual delight of the artwork, They're doing it slowly in the updates, which is a great way to improve the Kickstarter journey, but not as great a way of immediately capturing you on day one or as soon as you land on the campaign page. I think that's a bit of a misstep. You never really know what the best way to handle things are. I'm somebody that will, by the way, I absolutely will complain about, oh, this campaign was a boring campaign, nothing interesting happened. So they are solving that problem, but they're potentially doing so at the cost of actually pulling people in day one by just having spreads of delightful artwork. And they do have delightful artwork. You can go through the updates. You can see the art from Andrew Bosley, from others, if you want to get a feel or a sense for the rules that they are giving you in this game. But it's basically a Bejeweled style, point scoring mechanism. That's the core idea of the gameplay, with featuring art from a variety of artists and featuring upgrades and pledge levels and all of that. Which, speaking of which, let's talk about the pledge levels. So, pledge levels. We have $39 for the basic standard edition of the game. That does come with Kickstarter promos. It's worth noting because otherwise, just get it at retail. For $69, you get the Paradox Initiative Deluxe copy of the game. That will be, I'm trying to find the image here. That's basically giving you these upgraded bits over here. It's upgrading all the little bits, those little bejeweled bits you're sliding around your board. It's upgrading those to these more premium bits over here. If you do like the game, that's one of those high quality of life. It's one of those double-edged swords, because if you like the game, it's a huge quality of life improvement. In any game I love upgrading the bits, especially if they're like tokens or whatnot. Level 99 games, playing Bullet with the cardboard tokens versus the premium tokens, it's a night and day. The flip side is it doubles your cost. It goes from $39 to $69. It doubles your price of admission for a game that may or may not be for you. So it's kind of like, what do? Do you just go with the basic pledge? Do you get it at retail to save as much as possible? Or do you go ahead and get the Paradox Initiative Deluxe Edition because you want to go ahead and lock in those premium bits? Tough calls all around. Hard to make that judgment call. From there you have the Lab Assistant over here. The Lab Assistant is going to be giving you 4 playmats and the premium playmat box. So you can see that over here. This is the option over here. It's giving you a bunch of playmats and the playmat box in addition to everything else you got from before. And then for the Mad Scientist, you get absolutely everything, tons of art and all that, really heavily leaning into it. Although, for what it's worth, it looks like 5 people have gone for that. 5 people want a delightful, off-the-top playmat for all the stuff you can possibly have in this game. Listen, there's going to be a lot of gorgeous art in the game, so it makes sense. Although it makes sense from the standpoint of you're spending a lot of money on that to get that. And that's basically what you have over here. And then we have the promo items. These are going to be the technology module cards available to all backers. All of that as far as Paradox Initiative. That is everything going on the page, on the Kickstarter stuff. And we'll see how the campaign develops from there. But should you back it, should you not? So, if you want the game, I'd probably recommend getting it at the Deluxe pledge. You see, while the $39 pledge over here does give you some Kickstarter promos, at that point, once you're kind of not getting the full premium experience, I'd personally kind of lean towards just get it at the cheapest price of admission, which is going to be retail. So if I'm not getting the premium copy, I would want to go retail, because once I'm not getting everything, I may as well just get a retail copy, and I'll be happy with that. That will be a copy that is likely the most common copy in existence. That's just the way it works. But past that, if you are interested in doubling down this game, if you're interested in getting the premium copy, I'd probably lean towards the Deluxe one as being the one that's most likely to hold its value. Playmats are always a little trickier. I find playmat pledges don't tend to hold their value as much, with exceptions like Command Games, going to be a classic exception to playmats absolutely holding their value, but more often than not, they don't. More often than not, those pledges are great for you if you want them, not so great if you want to sell the pledge if it's not a game for you. But as far as the Deluxe over here, even then, I don't think the Deluxe will hold its value fully. I think it'll do a decent job of holding its value mostly, but not fully. Elf Creek Games, they make incredible premium products, incredible premium games, but at the same time, if you look at their recent campaigns, including Merchants of the Dark Road, they're kind of towing that line a bit. And then you combine that with the fact that there's only 660 backers in this game so far, which is not a huge amount of day one infusion. That does mean the demand for this one is lower than some of their other titles in the past, and so it does fall into that space where I'm skeptical to believe that it will fully hold its value if it's a game that's not for you. It might partially hold its value, it might be somewhat in demand, but you'll probably lose something on this one. It's not going to do as well as some of their prior titles, Honeybuzz, Elf Creep, or Honeybuzz, Atlantis Rising, or Merchants of the Dark Road. Moving on to For Northwood. For Northwood by Sidewind Games. This is a solo trick-taking game. A solo trick-taking experience as you go through the woods and try to meet with the various leaders, trying to hit their demands. Their demands are specific tricks you have to get, which means as you go through the game, you have to be more and more mindful of not just what you're doing now, but what your plans are for the next leader you interact with, the next leader you go through. You're also going to have a bunch of helpers that you're going to be utilizing for their abilities, and the leaders, as you win them over, will become helpers for you, being able to utilize their abilities as well. So it's a trick-taking solo challenge, which is an interesting concept because trick-taking and solo, while it's been done before, is not a common implementation of the trick-taking mechanic. And that's basically For Northwood. You can watch more videos for more of a high-level overview, or more of a detailed overview. This was a high-level overview, but that That's for Northwood as far as what you're getting for the game. As far as the pledge levels, you're looking at $15 for the base pledge. Let's go down here to rewards. You're looking at $15 for the base pledge and $25 if you want to pay an extra $10 and both support Sideroom Games and get your name on the box as well. Then in general, if you want that, that's great. I'm going to focus more on the should you back it for the basic one. $15. Short version is this is likely your best price to get for Northwood. If you are interested in for Northwood, $15 plus shipping, likely the best you're going to get. This is the nature of small box games. At the same time, it's not going to hold its value. This is a game that by the time you sell in the secondhand market, you're going to lose something. You might just lose in shipping. You might lose whatever. Smaller box games generally don't hold their value. The question is, do you want it or do you not want it? And is it the best price you can get for it? Sideroom Games in general, they do a good job of making the Kickstarter price compared to their on their site price to be a fair price to go for. And so if you want the game, you can go ahead and back for Northwood because it will likely be the best opportunity for you to get it, but it will not hold its value on the secondhand market. Moving on to Escape from Stalingrad Z. Escape from Stalingrad Z, 1,000 backers, $84,000 so far out of a $23,000 goal. They're doing phenomenally well so far. 17 days to go, and this Escape from Stalingrad Z is a Gloomhaven adjacent experience. I say I keep saying that, and honestly, it's a terrible descriptor. Ignore what I'm saying here. It's Gloomhaven adjacent in the sense that it's a dungeon crawl and it has a flip book map. That's all it is. That's all. So it's Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion adjacent in the loosest sense of the term. But it is a dungeon crawling experience. It does have a campaign book with 40 campaigns in it. I believe it's 40 campaigns if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's 40. I'll have to double check where it says that. But you have a bunch of pages worth of campaign to go through. And this is going to give you a ton of different options as far as how you dive into the experience, at what price point, with what level of premium upgrades. Starting off in the very basic, we have over here, we have the PDF option, $13 for a PDF of the game. You'll have to supply your own character pieces and tokens and dice and stuff like that, but you will have a printable, usable copy of the game. There's 60 backers at this pledge level, and that honestly makes sense. People who just want to focus on saving a little bit of money and dive into the experience with the minimal risk possible, this is not a bad opportunity to do so. And you could specifically play the game without having a ton of components. They designed it that way. So the next pledge up is $29 for the Escape from Stalingrad Z book set. That's going to give you kind of what the PDF does, but in a more premium actual book over here. So you're going to get a physical book that you can utilize. You'll still need to supply some degree of tokens and dice and things like that to proxy in, but you will have a playable experience in case you want that. And then past that, moving up to the next level at $48, so for an extra $20, basically an extra it's $19, you'll be getting the box set, which gives you everything you need to actually play the game. You will not be getting miniatures, but you'll be getting all the components necessary to play the game, including standees, including dice, including all the things you need over here. You can see this over here, what you got, same as the book set, plus all of this stuff over here as far as the extra tokens, the gear, the markers, all those things that you would otherwise have to print out and get some sort of copy yourself. And then from there, for $148, you have the all-in, which is going to give you everything you saw until now, plus all the extra content and the miniatures and all of that to get the full all-in for the base game. If you really want to heavily lean into this with the miniatures, with the full experience, the full premium everything, that's giving you the option there. And then from there, they still have an even more pledge level at $177 for the deluxe, and then $474 for the zombie master, which is limited pledge level. I'm not going to heavily focus on those, but they're basically giving you a very customized accessibility price point to this game. If you want the 40 pages of World War Z zombie experience, if you want all of that, they're giving you a lot of options as far as how to dive into it, as far as how to play the game, as far as what price points, what you get, your option. It's your smorgasbord to choose from for Escape from Stalingrad Z, which is great because it allows people like myself who are like, I want the full miniature experience, to go ahead and back that. And then it gives people the option to get anything from as little as, hey, a book set is all I need. I can supply some standees, or even I can just get the PDF. So a whole bunch of options to make this a very customized game to your needs over here. As far as will it hold its value, will it not? Hard to say, honestly. On the one hand, $49 for the box set, where you'll have to print some characters or standees, whatever it is. $49 to get your hands on that for what's giving you a Gloomhaven level of adventure scenarios. That's a fairly good price point. Not as good as Jaws of the Lion nowadays, where you can find it $32 on Amazon or whatever it is. It's the nature of, like, you know, Jaws of the Lion is very, very available, very premium, but Jaws of the Lion also has fewer missions. It doesn't have 40 missions, so it's a toss-up. What do you want there? Do you want the well-vetted Jaws of the Lion, or do you want this Escape from Stalingrad Z? And yes, you could have both too. But yeah, it's offering you a decent amount of gameplay content for a fairly decent price point, depending on what pledge level you're looking for, depending on what you feel the need to get for the game. But as far as hold its value, it's hard to say. That is a good price point, a good pledge levels all over there, but I don't have enough data. This is like, they have multiple campaigns under the belt, but this is a new style for them. It's something new that they're doing as far as the type of campaign that their company's bringing to the table, and I'm not confident enough either way that this will or won't hold its value. 1,000 backers is great. What do you have? 1,000 backers? 1,000 backers so far? That's great. That's a solid starting point for this. There's clearly enough demand for the game, but will it hold its value in the second-hand market? My guess is somewhere. You probably won't lose everything. There's clearly enough demand that people will want to pick this up. On the other hand, there's not enough demand, and it's new enough that it's offering like 14 pledge levels that make it a harder judgment call to confidently say one or the other. My guess is you will get most of your money back, but not necessarily all of your money back. As far as the next campaign, Birds of a Feather, Western North America. 560 backers, $16,000 raised so far. Just shy of funding, but honestly, I put this in the funding category because my expectation is by the time you watch this, it likely, not for sure, will have funded, but it'll for sure fund by the time the campaign's over. Birds of a Feather, Western North America. This is a game that when watching the video on this game, I was like, I know I've seen this game before. This is a game that I have covered on the channel in the past in other videos in some sense, and that's because this is Birds of a Feather, Western North America, and the original game is Birds of a Feather. This is a re-implementation of the original game. So yes, this game does exist. You can check out ratings, reviews, all of that. This game is a little different, but using the same basic formula. The same basic formula of players playing cards down simultaneously and then revealing them to score points for how well they've scored, for the various sightings they've seen as they try to collect sets of sightings. You're being mindful of not just what comes out this round, but what comes out next round as well. So the birds you play stay in play for another round, which means you have this guessing game of the like, oh, well, if you need this and you need that, you're probably going to play this. And so you have this interesting mindfulness of trying to outthink, outbluff, outplay the other players in what is a fairly quick, fairly accessible, easy to teach, easy to play, low priced, easy to travel with game that is easy to dive into. The real question is just how rewarding is it? That when a game has that many easies attached to it, usually it's a question of, okay, great, you're a filler game. Where are you on my personal rating and interest scale? I'm interested in Birds of a Feather. I'm interested in the original one. I never got a chance to table it. I'm interested in Western North America as well, and ultimately we'll see how this one works out for me or not, in terms of the gameplay and all of that. As far as the pledge levels over here, we have $20 for the It's a Bird pledge level, and we have $77 for the Retail Raptor, which you could ignore, that's for stores, and $120 for the Something Rare. That's going to be giving you a whole bunch of extras, including a very deluxe looking puzzle. Let's see if we can scroll down to that pledge level over here. Over here we got this one over here. Like you have, this is what you're getting in the $120 US dollar package, a bunch of, sticker pack and the art prints, and then this puzzle over here with, look at these pieces and the way they fit into that puzzle. Looks very cool if you want that. But that's what you got going on over here. I'm going to focus mostly on the $20 copy over here, the $20 It's a Bird copy, which you might be thinking is a little higher price for something in this box size. I mean, we just saw for Northwood giving you for $15, and this is $20. And the answer is you're right. They're specifically going with a very sustainable production value system. They're trying to approach this from a stance of, I don't know the full details, so excuse me if I just say sustainable again and again, but they're taking a sustainability approach, and if you want that, if you value that, then this is the time to go ahead and back something that is charging a drop more than it otherwise might, because they're going with a sustainability approach, a sustainability focus on the ability to make these games, on not plastic production and spot printing and UV and all these other things that would be more of a question and all that. But that is basically what you have going on for the It's a Bird, for Birds of a Feather, $20. As far as will it hold its value, will it not? Short answer is like for Northwood, likely not. The question is, will this be the best price point to get it at? And I don't know, honestly. I don't see their listed price points as far as MSRPs or future availability. I would say that given the low scope of backers, your safest bet is backing on a Kickstarter. That's not a guarantee that's your best price, and I'm very skeptical it'll hold its value, both judging by the original Birds of a Feather, as well as judging by just, the nature of small box games once you factor in shipping and how that typically plays out. Moving on from there to Iconoclash. Iconoclash is 275 backers, $19,000 raised. This seems to be level 99 games, but under Strange Machine Games, so it's like, maybe the Kickstarter's under Strange Machine, and the final game will be under level 99 in terms of retail. I don't have a firm idea. I just know that level 99 games is involved. And Iconoclash is another game that feels like a level 99 games. It's a game full of character battling. You're going to have characters, you're going to have their decks of cards, you're going to have arenas, and you're going to be battling it out either 2 players or 3 or 4 players as well. You can have whatever kind of stuff going on in these arenas as loot crates and dangers drop all around you, dealing with all of that in a variety of pledge tiers. We have, starting off the bat, $20 for the 2-fighter melee. That's going to give you the basic intro game, which is giving you a map, giving you 2 fighters, call it a day, jump into the experience like that. We have $40 for the 6-fighter brawl over here. That's going to be giving you an option of, first of all, the 2-player pack, as well as a 4-player pack with a map as well. And then for $80, you get the 14 fighters. That's going to be all 4 arenas, all 14 fighters across the various boxes and productions they have. That's giving you everything there. And from there, you have $180 or $290 or whatever, $3,000. Those are all options where you help design stuff, either items or costumes, or stay straight up you're in the game. So a whole bunch of more complicated options there that are more expensive, but give you degrees of customization in case you want any of that. As far as the game itself, you can check out, what's it called? Roll for Crit. Roll for Crit had a great video covering the game, going through how it plays and all that. The basic idea is you're going to have your deck of cards, you're going to be playing your deck of cards, you're going to be choosing your abilities as you play things, and then navigating the arena, trying to collect loot, avoid dangers. A high-level overview. You can watch their full video for more details as far as the game goes. Here you can see the boxes you're getting. You have the level max box over here, the Iconoclash there, you have the Battlegrounds box, again showing you each of the 4 fighters and the various options you get. You have the Cross Dimension Zero, this is going to be the 2-player starter pack over there, showing you all the stuff, the maps, the cards, the scenarios, the environment decks, the tokens. Those are all the things you have going on over here. Should you back it? Should you not? Will it hold its value? Will it not? Well, it kind of depends. You see, this is actually giving you a very normally when it comes to a level 99's Kickstarter, and I recognize this is not level 99. This is, a machine, what was it called again? Strange Machine Games. Normally when it comes to a level 99 Kickstarter, their games tend to cross that line a bit, mostly not holding their value, but sometimes occasionally having exceptions, especially with deluxe options. This one is very different because they're giving you a very good price point with a caveat. I'm trying to find the pledge levels. Here we go. $20 over here for a game that will cost you $35 in retail. That's a fairly good discount. That's not like, hey, $30 for $35, which is what we tend to see on Kickstarter. And yes, shipping will be charged. We'll get to that shortly. But this is $20 for a $35 retail price point. We have $40 for a $80 worth of retail, meaning once you get the 2-player boxes over here, the cross dimension, and then one choice of one of the larger boxes, that's $40 for a retail value of $80. That's great. And then from here, we have $170 for a retail value, $80 for a retail value of $170. That's amazing. That's an incredible savings on the MSRP. With the caveat that they also say we're giving you such a good discount because we're going to be charging you actual shipping, and we're not telling you what the actual shipping will be, but it's going to be our actual costs. That's a giant question mark. Like, what does that question mark translate to? Does that question mark translate into $30 of shipping, $45 of shipping, $17 of shipping? It's a very good price point on a game that I'd normally be skeptical of whether Kickstarter is the best place to get your hands on it, but with a giant question mark of it kind of depends on what shipping is. I don't think it's going to be crazy. My guess would be probably, if you're US based, my guess would be probably in the $30 to $40 range, maybe the $25 to $40 range. But when you have that large of a question mark and a degree of unknown uncertainty, it's a bit of a question. So we'll see. But this one kind of falls into the category of it's a great price on a good deal, and it might be the best place to get it, with the caveat that if the shipping price kind of slaps you unawares, that's where the state of the unknown is on Iconoclash. Moving on to the Dark Quarter. The Dark Quarter, $450,000, 4,400 backers, 20 days to go. This is doing tremendously well. As of right now, it's on pace to currently outpace Destiny's, the prior game that's similar-ish on Kickstarter, although it's hard to always know. Sometimes you see campaigns that are a little bit more front-loaded, and with a campaign, with a company like Lucky Duck, especially with the following they have, very often you do see that degree of front-loadedness to a campaign. If I had to guess, I'd still say it beats out Destiny's, but it might be close. But either way, the Dark Quarter, a cooperative narrative game, both from Lucky Duck Games and from Van Ryder Games. They're working together on this one, and they're bringing you a hodgepodge of gameplay, from aspects and skill checks and stuff that you see in Destiny's, from the app integration, from the navigation. A lot of stuff you've seen in Destiny's will be in the Dark Quarter. Then again, a lot of things you've seen in Chronicles of Crime will be in the Dark Quarter in terms of the way you're interacting with various characters, scanning QR codes, asking people about this, going back and forth between locations. A lot of stuff you've seen in Chronicles of Crime, and then also bringing you similar gameplay elements or story or background from the designers. I believe the writers from Final Girl, I believe, are involved in this, and Van Ryder's also done Detective City of Angels. So you're seeing a lot of different talents, a lot of different mixes, a lot of different backgrounds, all being thrown together in the Dark Quarter. The Dark Quarter is basically a mystery game in which you're playing as these various people who mostly work for the Beaumont Agency, I guess. I don't know if they all will, because there's a bunch of characters they haven't really explored yet, but you work for the Beaumont Agency and you're going through these various mystical kind of mysteries. So think mysteries, but with werewolves and vampires and strange dark gods that people are making offerings to. Think that kind of situation as you wander around New Orleans, as you talk to various people, as you scan QR codes, as you go from location to location, as you try to piece together the mysteries, as you make skill checks, as you grow and develop your characters, as you move your stats around, as you get various level ups that you'll be able to use towards each progressive campaign scenario in the game. A lot of things going on in the Dark Quarter, all mixing together these different genres, these different games. As far as the pledge levels, and by the way, I didn't say so outright, but straight up, this is an app game. If you're not comfortable with app games, this may not be a game for you. This is a very heavily app integrated game. The first scenario is like, I think they said 30,000 wards, something like that. I mean, I can't speak for the ward count, but I can tell you that the first scenario is easily 2 hours of gameplay if you're not rushing it. I played the first scenario twice, and the second time was solo, which means I already knew stuff. You can get under 90 minutes if you're playing solo, and if you're rushing it, yes, you can do that. But I'd say you're looking at 2 hours plus for a full scenario dive if you properly take your time, properly go into it. But that's basically the Dark Quarter, and that's only the first scenario. The base game will have 4 scenarios, and then each expansion and all that stuff offers you more. So we have the Rookie over here. The Rookie is going to be $65 for the base game of the Dark Quarter, plus the Demons and Other Stories expansion. Basically, by default over here, there is no standard retail pledge. No matter what you do, you're getting something extra that is, well, Kickstarter exclusive or Lucky Duck exclusive. So that's going to be the free exclusive expansion that comes with every pledge over here. That's going to be the Dark Quarter, the Yesterday, and what is it called again? The Yesterday Demon and Other Stories expansion. So that's going to be some more prequel stories to the Dark Quarter. Then from there, we also have the Detective over here. The Detective pledge is giving you all of that, plus the Lost to the Night expansion as well. Let's see if we can find that over here. Where is it? Somewhere over here. Where are the pledge levels? Let's try to find the pledge levels over here. If we can scroll down and just scroll through all the content and the stuff. Very pretty game. Lots of tokens, lots of everything, lots of miniatures, although some are going to be optional buys and all that. Daily unlocks. Here's all the daily unlocks that they're giving out. Where are the pledge levels? I want the pledge levels. I can't find the pledge levels. They're somewhere here. Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on this campaign page. Let's see how fast we have. Whoa. Okay, here we go. Finally, we got it, okay? So, $59, 59 euro, basically 59 euro, which is $65 or so for the basic pledge over here. Then we have 94 euro, roughly $103 for the base pledge, the Lost in the Night, and the Yesterday and Demons and all that, giving you all of that bundled together. And then we have the whole damn agency. Speaking of which, by the way, this game is mature themed, has lots of language and lots of very aggressive personalities and lots of murder time. But 139 euro, $152 for everything, including all the bundled optional add-ons. You can get each of these separately if you want, but you get a discount if you bundle them all together in this pledge level, giving you the full miniature pack, which is giving you miniatures for all the more prominent characters you'll be meeting across the storyline. You have the metal experience coins over here. These are coins you'll be cashing in as you level up your characters, so they translate that to metal coins. And then we have the plastic tokens pack, which is, as you might imagine, plastic tokens. Upgrading the various tokens you have in the game to a plastic token pack. That's what you have, everything going on over here. That's basically the Dark Quarter. Whole bunch of pledge levels, very strongly mirroring the structure of the Destiny's Kickstarter. Everything is a little more expensive than the Destiny's Kickstarter. You may notice that if you're looking and comparing this to the Destiny's Kickstarter, but that's what we have over here. Should you back it? Should you not? Will it hold its value? Hard to say 100%. I think it will, but with caveats. And the caveats are, if you look at Destiny's is going to be the closest comparison point, both in terms of the gameplay overlap. I actually think, gameplay-wise, I think this is more comparable to Chronicles of Crime, but they're structuring a lot of things around the Destiny's system, both the price points, the pledge levels, and also it does have elements of Destiny's in here. I think this will be more closely compared to Destiny's, despite me feeling that gameplay-wise, it's more similar to Chronicles of Crime. But if you compare this to Destiny's as a game, as a campaign, if you back the stuff over there, it did a decent job holding its value. Even now, Destiny's pledges, while you can find some that are more par value, you can also find plenty of pledges that are being sold for above the value on the secondhand market. So let's cover a few things, the same usual things. If you want the game, by default, you are getting exclusive content in this pledge over here, which means your question is, if you want the exclusive content, you're either getting it over here on Kickstarter, or you're getting it on the secondhand market. Otherwise, you can go ahead and get this at retail. You'll get it cheaper. You may have to wait between print runs. I know Destiny's definitely saw gaps between print runs, so that is something you want to factor in. But overall, if you want the game with the exclusive content, your options are Kickstarter or secondhand market. As far as will it hold its value, it's more expensive than Destiny's, which makes it a harder judgment call. But I think it likely still will mostly or completely hold its value. I say the mostly part because at the end of the day, when you escalate the price point, you're asking me to now make a judgment call based on the fact that they've made the game like $20 more expensive at each pledge level. Will that translate over to how well the secondhand market does? And the answer is a strong maybe. I don't know. Destiny's wasn't a smashing hit as far as, I mean, it's a smashing hit, but it wasn't like, if you look at the pledge levels, you find plenty of people who are selling their copies at the pledge level pricing, and even though there are some that's selling it above, there's plenty selling it at. And so once you have that, it's a question of whether they'll translate over to this one or not. So my answer is, your money's mostly safe. Whether it's fully safe or not is hard for me to guarantee you one way. I mean, I never make guarantees, it's all judgment calls, but it's hard for me to make a judgment call whether it's completely safe. Bit of a question mark over there. But that is the Dark Quarter from Lucky Duck Games. Next up, and Van Ryder. Next up, we have Last Light. Last Light from Grey Fox Games, 1,100 backers, $178,000 raised, 22 days to go. This is over on GameFound, and this is Last Light, designed by Roy Cannaday, who is a regular over at the Dice Tower. You've probably seen him before. He loves Marvel Champions and Last Light. I assume he loves Last Light. I'm just projecting, but I mean, he likes the game. I imagine he made the game. But Last Light is a fast-paced 4X experience, one that we've been promised in many shapes and forms, but one that I can say safely. Is probably, I should probably play Last Light more than once before I say safely, but based on my one play of Last Light, I believe that this is the best game that merges what you actually get out of a 4X experience versus the game time it takes. Okay, I played a game of this it's one game, so factor that in, but I play this on TTS, which is slower. As a platform, TTS slows everything down. I play this on TTS with 4 players with Teach in under 90 minutes. So with the Teach and on TTS in under 90 minutes, which makes me completely believe that 60-minute playtime. In fact, to the point that they have an expansion option that takes this game from 2 to 4 players to 2 to 8 players, in case you want to play it with more than 8 players, and I believe people have played it at that 8-player count and have still talked about how fast the game is. I plan on getting the expansion, the idea of being able to table this when I have 6 or 7 people at the table, and wanting to table something that still plays in under 90 minutes, and yes, I'm assuming that 8 players will make it more than an hour, who knows, but Last Light is simultaneous play in the sense that you're going to be picking your cards, playing them at the same time, and most cards you can execute on your own as you quickly do your things. As you go through exploration, as you build out your fleet, as you gather tech cards, most of the things you do are mostly simultaneous. There's a little bit of interaction, which is why more players will add more time. Certain cards you do will have a degree of pause, okay, someone needs to resolve in certain order, but most stuff is just fast-paced. Last Light is promising you that 4X fast-paced experience, and it delivers on it. You can check out any number of people who've tabled this at conventions, online, on TTS. It really strongly does deliver on it. And by the way, I will say this, I haven't told Roy this, so I apologize. I don't love the look of the game. I really don't. I think that the whole floating planet situation doesn't do it for me at all. So I'll tell you how much I love the game itself. That part I'll tell you. The look of the game is not to my personal taste. It's not the worst, but it does feel a bit like I'm going to be paying for a premium experience, but getting a premium experience that was not designed to my personal taste, which just makes sense. It was probably designed to other people's personal tastes. But that is my feedback as far as the design over there. Which brings us to the pledge levels over here, the prices. We have $169 for the everything pledge over here. That's absolutely everything. Let's take a step back to the basic pledges before we go from there. $79 for the standard edition of the game. We have $109 for the deluxe edition, giving you a whole bunch of these deluxe goodies over here. We have $129 if you want the regular edition that goes up to 8 players. So regular but 8 players, $129. And then regular 8 players and deluxe, that's going to be $169 for everything and $169, but also an extra $25 shipping. So factor that in as well. The shipping prices are all below. You can check that out. And by the way, just a heads up, if you do go for a late pledge back or whatever it is, if you try to back later, they will have a late pledge, but they have said the prices will be more expensive, so factor that in before deferring your late pledge. Should you back it, will it hold its value, all of those things? Well, first of all, let's go through some exclusive content, because there is exclusive content over here. They're definitely giving exclusive content, so let's go through some of the stuff over here in case you want to choose between retail or not retail. Well, it's worth knowing. We have the extra planet, we have those ship upgrades, we have more alien races that they're giving, we have new ship sculpts, more alien races, more exclusive tech AI cards, exclusive alien races over here. So they're giving you extra stuff. If you want more content for the game, if you want exclusive content, they're absolutely giving that over here. You can see that little Grey Fox Games exclusive tag over there. This stuff will be limited in their availability, although do factor in that Grey Fox Games has done an After the Empire reprint for exclusive content, so it is also possible that, especially if this game is a smash hit, all that, which I imagine it will be because it's a really, really good game, and everyone I know who's played it has been impressed with what the experience is giving. But as far as, the Grey Fox Games may well do a GameFound reprint, relaunch, re-exclusive content campaign at some point in the future, so it's not necessarily that this is your only chance, it's more that this is your only guaranteed chance. So, with that all of the way, should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? It's a bit of a mix on this one. So first of all, I do have to say, Grey Fox Games does have a bit of a history. It's worth noting that they have had a history and complaints around issues with components or production issues and all of that. It's not across the board, but it's enough that I do have to mention it. Meaning it's one of those things where you'll find dozens and dozens of people who are perfectly happy with whatever game they back from Grey Fox Games. I have After the Empire. It's amazing. No issues, no complaints whatsoever. I have many other Grey Fox games, or I've had many other Grey Fox games. I personally have had no issues, and you'll find many people who have had no issues with their stuff. But you will find enough complaints that I do have to mention. Do your research and back accordingly, and back with whatever degree of confidence that research gives you. There's still plenty of people backing their games, but they do have enough complaints that I do want to bring that up. But past that, as far as will it hold this value, will it not? After the Empire is actually going to be my comparison point here. After the Empire is an incredibly good game that has a high price point attached to it, a high price point that is translated into both the Kickstarter exclusive extras and all that, as well as to just the retail availability and retail pricing of the game. It's not a cheap game. It's a very premium, very expensive game. And I think Last Light is doing the same thing. They're aiming for the same target audience. I mean, $79 for the base game with all the stuff you're getting, and you are getting a lot of nice stuff. Nice stuff that's not to my personal taste, but nice stuff nonetheless in a game that I think is an excellent experience and an excellent game. And so I do feel it's going to hit that same model, and I think that, like After the Empire, it likely, but not a guarantee, will hold its value. After the Empire on the secondhand market has generally done a good job holding its value. It's a game that's frequently out of print, frequently between print runs, has had exclusive content that people wanted because it's such a good game that people want to hunt down those extras after they get a retail copy of the game, and so it's done a good job holding all of that value. Last Light is also a good game, a great game. I think that it'll do very well on the secondhand market. I think it'll do very well. I think it's going to be between print runs. I think you'll see all the stuff you saw with After the Empire applied to Last Light. Certainly not a guarantee, but I just think, enough people I know have played this game and have been super impressed with it, including myself, that I'm fairly confident that a 4X game that genuinely takes 60 minutes or under to table, to play, and to enjoy, I think is a game people are going to be hunting for. And that's Last Light by Grey Fox Games. Next up, we have Tablegolf Association. 276 backers, $43,000. We have 276, $40,000. This is basically a flicking game. It's a flicking game which you're going to be playing golf. You're going to have this little disc, not disc, the little metal ball in a little casing that you're trying to flick across the table with a bunch of rules mimicking golf to some degree. Different things you hit will impose different penalties, how you have to flick, different modifications to your flicks, different modifications to your score. It's basically flicking. That's all it is. It's a flicking game with a golf theme and golf rules superimposed on top of it. That may or may not seem interesting to you. I do recommend watching the video, by the way. It is fun and satisfying to watch them flick it, and I absolutely want to be flicking it myself, although with the caveat that I love Crokinole, and Crokinole is my only real flicking game. But also the additional caveat that the pledges are not cheap for this game. $75 is your entry point to drive into Tablegolf Association. $105 will get you the driving range expansion, and $135 will get you the European expansion as well. $185 will get you in a bonus 25 tiles in case you want to make even more of a driving range or whatever. So this game does look cool. Kudos to them for funding over here. They currently funded 279 backers, $44,000 is great for them. Very happy for a first-time creator, but I think it's a first-time creator. It should be. No, two created. Did I miss something? What did I miss over here? Let's take a look over here. Whoops, leaning behind my camera. I missed that they had something else. They had the Dream Coaster Sport. They have another game on the belt. But yeah, kudos to them for funding. Good job on that. But overall, this is one that is expensive. So the short version is, if you're interested in the game with 279 backers, this is likely the best place for you to go ahead and get your hands in it, because it's not going to be readily available left, right, and center. It's going to have a low retail availability, if anything, probably nothing, and it's going to have a low secondhand market availability. So if you want the game, this is probably the place to get your hands in it. The flip side is it's also one that will probably not hold its value, just given the targeted audience for the game, as well as the pricing. There are Kickstarter exclusives here, so even if it does go to retail, where are they over here? Somewhere over here along the way they had exclusives, different exclusive content, so you can see like various tokens or tiles or whatnot are going to be exclusive, so there is exclusive content over here, but it's one that I don't think we'll see retail anyway, and will have a hard time holding its value. Moving on to the next one, the DC deck building game 10th anniversary. This is the last campaign we'll be covering with 1,900 backers, or 2,000 now. We have $330,000 raised. We have 28 days to go. DC deck building game is both a reprinting of all the content that is available for DC deck building. It's also giving you new multiverse boxes, different larger changed multiverse boxes, and it's giving you new content in the form of the flash and the reverse flash for the rival system. The rival system is something DC deck building already has, and this is 2 new characters in the rival system, and then bringing you you Injustice as well, which is, you know, the theme of Injustice of, you know, good heroes fighting, well, bad heroes, I guess. But basically DC deck building, and this is going to be a hard campaign to cover because there's so many pledge levels, there's so many options. I'm going to be talking more in generalities here, both in terms of gameplay generalities as well as pricing and should you back it, should you not generalities. There's just too much content broken down here. They're talking about a lot of content with a pledge level that goes all the way up to $345 as an entry point to the game if you want to jump in and get everything, of which we have 300 people currently doing that. And I'm debating it, honestly. We'll see. So either way, let's go ahead and dive into it. DC deck building, what is it? It's from Cryptozaic, who have done they've done various deck building implementations that follow certain formulas with small differences both between Lord of the Rings, between DC, between a dozen different IPs that they've thrown on top of their deck building system. And I'm not saying that critically. I enjoy some of their games. I've played the Lord of the Rings deck building. I enjoyed that. I have not played the DC deck building one. I do have it because I just got my hands on it in order to try this out to know whether I'm going to join those backers on this campaign. But the DC deck building basically comes down to any deck building form, which you're going to be trying to build out your deck as you gather more and more expensive cards, as you tackle various enemies in the card row. It's a competitive experience. It's not a cooperative experience. It's a game which you're trying to get as many points as possible, working a little adjacent to Marvel Legendary in terms of the way it approaches the competitive versus co-op experience, although that does change with some of the expansions. Some of the expansions do get more head-to-head, including Injustice. We have the opportunity to start really targeting the other players at the table, possibly reducing the life force and giving them negative victory points to be mindful as they go. So again, generalities here. It's a deck building system. It's not cooperative, although sometimes you're kind of working together-ish, but really just doing your own thing. Other times you're actually directly hitting or targeting other players in the game. Lots of stuff going on here. Pledge levels are anything from just the new content over here, starting off at $70 for Injustice for All, plus the Flash and Reverse Flash, going all the way up to the Multiverse boxes, which is more of a storage system with promo content and locations and things like that, but more of a storage system, to Superfans with playmats and all of that, and $345 for absolutely everything for the game, including a whole bunch of playmats. A lot of pledges over here. The problem is many of these pledges come with all the various promos that are coming in. Let's see if we can scroll down over here. Let's see, to scroll down to the promos. Promos, they got tons of stuff here. I'm sorry, there's going to be a lot of scrolling, a lot of content for the DC deck building. More and more things. Here we go. Stretch goals. So, they're starting to unlock a variety of promos, and that matters extensively because of the fact that if you look on eBay, on Board Game Geek, the promos for the DC deck building game are all over the place. By all over the place, I mean they go for anything from $2 for some promos to as much as $20 for single promos for others. And that's a big deal for a campaign that's giving you a bunch of exclusive cards that are Kickstarter exclusive options over here that you can't otherwise get. That is easily the biggest option over here. That is a big question mark of the price point over here for you're getting for the game. Meaning, I can't go into all the pledge levels. There's too much to break down. There's so many different content. You'd have to compare it to the retail options, the secondhand market options. There's a lot of stuff to go over in the pledge levels. What I will say is when you're considering it, your options for DC deck building are a fewfold. First of all, in the interest of being level-headed, if you haven't considered DC deck building until now, why are you considering it now? Just because it's on Kickstarter? I mean, DC deck building has been out since 2012. That's 10 years. This is a 10-year anniversary edition. If you've been ignoring the existence of the game for the past 10 years and suddenly you're like, well, it's on Kickstarter, I'm paying attention, well, then you have a problem. I have the same problem, by the way. That's why I have a copy of DC deck building on my floor, because I want to try it out and see if this is for me, but I've been ignoring it for the past 10 years. So I have the problem that you have. But, I mean, in the interest of being level-headed, we've been ignoring it for 10 years. Some of us love the game and want all the content, great. But we've been ignoring it for 10 years, and suddenly they threw it on Kickstarter, and we're like, now we're paying attention. But whatever. Past that, if you do want the game, the cheapest price points are going to be diving into the secondhand market to buy collections of the game with a bunch of content, or even just getting it at retail. You don't need to jump straight to the $345 pledge for it. At least 308 of you do, but hey, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, there's a lot of cheaper options to get your hands on it. But if you are focused on, well, I want it all, I want the exclusive stuff, and I want to just get everything, a lot of the promos for the game can get fairly expensive, which might make the Kickstarter the best place to get the game because of those promos. It's hard to perfectly predict around them because of the fact that they range heavily in price. Like I said, I mean, ignoring the cheaper ones, anywhere from $5 to $20 or $5 to $15 is the more normal median range for these promos that you get. I don't even know what the full Kickstarter pack of promos will be for this campaign on Kickstarter. Like, if you look on eBay after, people might be selling the promos alone for $50, $100. I don't know. So factor that in when you decide should you back it, should you not. The short version is, it's not the cheapest way to get your hands on DC Deck Builder, but it might be the cheapest way to get your hands on it if you want absolutely everything, including the promos. So that's the should you back it on this one. And that is everything, which brings us to picks of the week. Picks of the week. Like I said at the beginning, I backed 2 of these, and I'm considering 2. You can ignore the screaming, stomping upstairs. They're having fun, I think. But as far as picks of the week, I generally pick a few things. I pick the game that I have the most personal interest in, as well as the thing that I think is most likely to hold its value. And to that end, we have, let's see if we can go through these over here. The ones I'm considering, by the way, considering Blade Rondo. I'm kind of torn. I don't know if it's a game for me, but Michael Kelly, One Stop Co-op Shop, really convinced me on that one. As far as For Northwood is the one that I'm backing, or one of the ones that I'm backing, I am also currently backing Last Light, and I am potentially considering DC Deck Builder along with Blade Rondo. Those are the ones I'm currently looking at. So as far as personal interest, I'm going to go with Last Light. I mean, For Northwood is a close one, but Last Light is my personal interest pick here. This is a game that, if it's anything like the experience I remember having, and granted it was over a year ago, but if it's anything like that experience, this is going to be a staple in my collection because of the wide variety of player counts it accommodates and the experience it gives relative to the playtime. It is not the best game I've ever played, not by a long shot, but the experience relative to the playtime is an excellent combination that, despite the fact that the graphic design and the giant planets are not my personal thing, I am compelled. I cannot wait to dive into this one again. I cannot wait to get my hands in it, and I cannot wait to see if it lives up to the memories I had playing it. So that's Last Light as my personal interest pick of the week. As far as the one that's most likely to hold its value, I'm gonna go with the Dark Order, and it's a bit of a caveat because it has the caveat there of what if the more expensive options over here are going to slightly take away from it? It is a question, but I do think this is most likely to hold its value. The combination of the publishers involved, the fact that it's a re-implementation of classic games or a combination of classic games they've put out, I think that it'll still likely hold its value, even given the increased pricing and the increased cost. And that's everything. Those are all the campaigns, which means let's go into what's coming up next week, which means we have Explorers of the Woodlands launching next week over on Kickstarter. And then we have 2 GameFound campaigns. Not just 2, but 2 at least. We have the Great Wall reprint over here, which was supposed to launch last week, but seems to have been pushed off. The Great Wall reprint, we'll see that over there. And then we have Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. This is going to be a big one. This is going to cross $1 million. Absolutely no question over there. We're going to see $1 million crossed. I have no question on that one. But that is everything we have over there, which means thanks for being here. This has been fun. A little longer than usual. Wow, we actually went back up to our 50-minute mark over here. But in any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And as always, have a good one. Sorry, I'm just replying to someone. Okay, cool. Got that out of the way. Cool. Okay. Have you heard of Bruce Lee's Even Faster Brother? Suddenly.